Oh my goodness. This is disgusting. I can literally see my bad food and beverage decisions over the past 2 months. Christmas got to me. I need to learn food portion control, which is what they're talking about in Hot Button. So let's send it over to Karolina and Jonathan.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hot Button. This week we're going to be talking about portions. I feel very passionate about portions. It's the new year and we all hear about eating right and being healthy. We all know that in the month of January, gym memberships increase about 30 to 50% depending on your demographic. In my opinion, we are missing out on the most important thing, and that's eating right. More specifically, portion control. So Jonathan, are you a big eater?
Well, you'd think that being a tall man, I would be, in fact, a big eater, but really, I am not. Big portions overwhelm me. I fill up so quickly. And when it comes to making my own food or food decisions, I like to avoid it altogether. So for me, the main issue isn't having too big of portions. For me, the issue is having too small of portions.
I wish I had that issue.
Do you really?
Well, I enjoy food, and I wish I could eat as much as possible. However, I know there's a certain image I need to uphold, body-wise, which doesn't really give me much room to do that. So that's why I've started to take a look at portion controls.
Okay.
Because I tried the whole gym thing, and that didn't really pan out. So I'm looking to see where else I could trim the fat, so to speak. Like the other day, I was making KD.
Okay.
And while I was eating, I was looking at the box and I realized I was eating 4 servings. So I felt really guilty. But it made me understand that perhaps we don't know exactly what a serving is these days.
Well, perhaps KD's another issue to look at, but and it is an interesting point. I mean, I know that in North America, the servings at restaurants are usually bigger than those in, say, Europe, which is especially the case if you're in the USA or if you're at the Wildcat Grill and order a Rowdy Rosedale burger. But personally, I get overwhelmed when I see those huge portions, and in the case of going to the Wildcat Grill, I remember being stressed at seeing my friends trying to eat that said burger. But eating and nutrition is a very important part of our lives, and I think in the last 35 years we've really become confused by all the different diets and things people are telling us are good, when really it's all about balance. So I guess with your kind of emphasis on portion control, what are you doing to try and find that right balance?
Well, I'm trying to use smaller plates.
Okay.
And for lunches, I got this nifty Tupperware with different sections for all the food groups. So I'm just filling it up. So I really don't have to think too much into it, and it's just automatic.
Okay, and so now with the smaller plates and those nifty Tupperware, how is it eating the smaller portions?
Well, I'm always hungry. But I have combated that by eating something every 3 hours. So for example, I'll eat a light snack like cheese stick or hummus with vegetable in between the main meals.
You know, that is actually really good that you're doing that. You know, I've heard it said that it's much better to eat smaller things throughout the day, even every 2 hours, than to have big meals with a huge chasm of nothing in between. Because, it keeps you full, it keeps your metabolism running, and it keeps you to having smaller portions because you're not going to be as hungry when you come to the meal. When you go to the meal and you're like, I need to eat everything. And it's something I actually definitely need to start getting into as well. But then, again, that issue of coming to think about food all day really daunts me.
Buy a Fitbit and log your food. I did it. When you look at my graph, it's a little bit interesting. Mine looks like a roller coaster.
Really?
So you do have some days I feel really good, and then others I go over 500 calories over the recommended intake. So just seeing it visually helps me work towards leveling it off.
I know my spikes would probably be more like depressions, which is depressing. But I think, that brings up the point, perhaps our image and scale of what is a good portion is distorted. We see that huge portion of the restaurant with that huge amount of fries, and then we're told that our serving is actually quite small when we read the side of the box. And so maybe portion size has more to do with who we are than what it is we're actually eating. I think it's really important to think in moderation. Do you really need to have another appetizer on top of your main course dish that's in a huge plate already? Just because you can eat a lot nowadays, which we can, doesn't mean we should.
Yeah, I think the moral of this discussion is that we need to self-realize what is actually good for us. There's not one manual that you can read that will ensure results and a healthy lifestyle. It takes time to understand what's healthy and to experiment with new foods. But keep it as natural as possible. And like me, don't have too much.
Amen. We certainly live in a new age where there's plenty of processed food that's easy and cheap to get a hold of. And it makes me kind of wish that I had my grandmother to teach me the tricks of the kitchen, Really just don't eat like the old days. Now, what about you? Do you like eating lots of food? Instagram us your meals, and we'll see you on the next episode of Hot Button.
And that's it. That's the end of our show and the kickstart of my brand new toxin-free body and new year. If you have any tips on detoxifying your body or just want to tell us how you kickstarted your fabulous new year, contact us through Facebook or send us a tweet. We always love hearing from you. All right, 2016, bring it on. Is it so gross?